like and subscribe. What was the most disappointing reason you had to end a relationship? I realized that he just wanted someone and didn't actually want me. Same. We went to prom. I was so stoked. He went and talked with her the whole time. Weird thing is, a few years later I tried again. Long distance, but he visited. Ended up breaking it off because of his mom. But we stayed good friends. He asks me for advice with his girlfriend. But he once said he doesn't know it like being in a relationship, and I just kinda stopped talking to him. Same with my first relationship, but I have to say I was the same way in that relationship. It just took us both a while to realize it, I think. Same. He told me I was a second option in lol. I feel like I read this differently. Do you mean he wanted someone else, or that he just wanted to fill a space? This is deep. Same. He was just interested in having someone take care of him. Any girl would do. We just didn't click. He was a really nice guy, and we had a lot in common. He treated me really well. I wanted so badly to make it work, but I knew I would string him along for nothing, so I had to end our relationship. You're a queen. You deserve someone great for sure. Glad I'm not the only one. I felt so bad for ending it, even though there were some legitimate reasons, but I still liked him, and he treated me really well, but looking back it was one of the best decisions of my life. I'm so relieved he's now happy in a new relationship. I'm in the same place currently. Wonderful guy. I love him, but I'm not I in love with him. Yeah, I broke up with my last boyfriend before I met my husband for the same reason. Very nice and we got along well, but he was too introverted for me, and I was probably too extroverted for him. It just wouldn't have worked in the long run. Something just felt like it was missing. There was no spark. I've been in the same situation. I told all of my girlfriends that if they ever match with him on dating apps to absolutely go for it, because he's such a keeper, but just not the man for me. It wasn't anything he did. The spark just wasn't there for me. Feel this. Everything was great, except our sexual chemistry, which there was none. We forced it for years. I didn't realize how bad it was until I slept with my ex-boyfriend. Second sexual experience. It was literally night and day. And like I was alive for the first time. I went away to college. He stayed back home. I had to initiate all communication, and many nights he didn't pick up his phone or call me back. I went home for a holiday and was invited to his grandfather's home to celebrate. It was a gated community. Nobody opened the gate. I tried buzzing in and calling for an hour. I went home, celebrated with my family later that evening, and his new girlfriend sent me a Facebook message the next day to ask me to stay away from her man. You can have him, Alicia. I am sorry that happened to you. You handled it so maturely though. Best of lucky. Who invited you though? Just wondering. I feel like he probably told the new girlfriend you were a crazy ex or something. Bye Felicia. What crude, crass people though. Invites you to not let you in? Sounds like Ella's horrible and was raised by an awful family. Alicia fits right in. 7 years into the relationship he still didn't want to take the next step, move in together, because he mom did everything. Only to find out a year after breaking up he has a new girlfriend who he has not even been with for a year, and they now live together. Wow. That hers you still vertical bar. I am speechless. My ex told me straight up as he walked out the door, I don't want to be married anymore. It happens. People change. 6 months after our divorce he remarried. He just didn't want to be married to me. I would have respected him a lot more if he'd been honest. That hurts to read. OMG. You often hear things like this. Maybe this guy realized he had to be willing to move out if he wanted a relationship. Maybe this new girl promised to be his cleaning lady. You are probably better off. Sometimes it takes a relationship to realize what you want. I would not take it personally. People can learn from their mistakes though. Maybe he realized what he'd done. His unwillingness to try new things. Whenever I suggested we try new things, like go to a place we haven't been at before, or a new activity, he'd always refuse. He'd only do the familiar. We were confined to a few select things he was willing to do together. Then he started giving me the "we did that a 1,000 times already" argument. Then the range of things we could do just went narrower and narrower, until we did nothing together. In the end I didn't even bother asking. I knew the answer would be no, so I called my friends to do it together instead. Eventually I ended the relationship. Not to make too light of your situation, but he sounds like an I'll order nuggets or tenders and fries, no matter where we go out to eat. Yup. I went on my first solo travel trip with my first boyfriend when we were about 16 to 17, and he refused to eat at any restaurant. He said it was not worth the money, even affordable places, because he was fine with getting the same muffin for every meal at chain coffee shops. I was so turned off by this lack of willingness to try new things. To me it symbolizes control and arrogance, paired with his other traits. I ended things not long after we got back. That sounds like a very sad, small, boring life. To each their own, but I wouldn't have been able to handle it either. My ex was the same. He got very controlling about where we went. It was one of many reasons I broke it off. Adventuring together is the fun part of a relationship. He sounds super boring. I'm glad you left a relationship that wasn't working for you, but to give another perspective, I'm autistic. So while I'm quite willing to try new things, I need substantial notice to gear myself up for it. Like if my partner just came home one evening after work and was like, "Do you wanna go ziplining?" I'd give a hard no, and probably have a meltdown if they pushed it. I can work around my autistic traits, but it's really difficult to get over the discomfort and overwhelmingness that new experiences and situations can present, even if ultimately they end up being pleasant. If I have few days to gear myself up, it's a bit easier. Noted, I was only diagnosed with autism this year, 26F, so my whole life I've just been considered difficult or particular. Many neurodivergent people struggle with these types of things if they have an improper DX. My great-grandma had just died not 1 week before I broke up with him, because he wouldn't stop asking what I would be doing if he was the one who died instead. He wanted me to say things that I couldn't, because I was grieving my grandma's demise and all he could think about was himself. He wouldn't even comfort me, because he claimed that I didn't care about him. That's a whole other level of narcissism. He's in his own league. I dated a guy like this. Everything was always about him. I was a pretty supportive girlfriend, but then my dad fell sick and was in the ICU, and he was still whining about how I wasn't talking to him often enough, meeting him often enough during COVID, and basically not devoting the kind of time I used to, cause now I had to care for my sick father. My dad recovered and is fine now. It wasn't COVID, but yeah, I'm done and out of the relationship. My ex did this when my grandma died, except after the funeral it was, "Did you even know I was there? You didn't pay attention to me even once, blah blah blah." I was greeting everyone. My mom and I organized the funeral. OFC, we had to be making sure everything went as planned, while still trying to find time to grieve and comfort others. I did not even know people could be that selfish. Selfish during your family death. What on earth? Why did he have this morbid fascination? I found out he was pedophile because he messaged underage girls in a sexual way and realized that I was groomed into the relationship. Yeah. That was pretty embarrassing for me. Oh honey, you are not alone, and you should not be the one embarrassed. He should. Glad you got away from him. Hey, this happened to me as well. It is a really difficult situation, and still makes me question myself, even though I know it wasn't my fault. I'm proud of you for getting out. Sending love to you. I know sister, that's embarrassing for him. You should carry no embarrassment or shame about that. Hell no. He should be the one embarrassed and ashamed, not you. You did nothing wrong. You should not feel embarrassed. It wasn't your fault. I hope you're doing better now. They are very good at it. That is why con men are called con men. On the other end of the spectrum, Though not nearly as deplorable, they had long relationships with aging women and wipe out their savings. We worked extremely well together, but he wanted kids and I done it. Deal breaker. Same happened to me. Uncanny how much we had in common, right down to our careers and hobbies. Off the charts sexual chemistry. But he said one day he needed to have children and that was a no-go for me. That is the worst. There are so many things that a couple can comprise on, but there are a few that are very black and white. Kids/no kids, where to live. He refused to get help for his lifelong depression. It's so heartbreaking to break up over such reasons. You can't help somebody who doesn't help themselves. That is my story too. I believe that in my case, the fact that he didn't want to get help, and that I was trying my best to keep him safe made it all feel like a job and not a relationship. Sometimes I still think about how our story could have been different. He was the only man I loved in my life so far. I hope it happens again someday. Same. I even recommended a therapist and he responded with something like my mom won't like it. I knew I just had to break up then. I am in a similar situation now, but it has my first anxiety. He does not have sound coping skills and I not prioritizing his mental health, so nothing changes. I am getting tired of walking on eggshells to avoid saying or doing something that will send him into a panic spiral. It sucks because I know, if he prioritized his mental health, things would be so much better for him and us as a couple. Been there. I told him to go to therapy many times, to which he always said I don't need therapy, I have you. No, it wasn't cute. This is where I'm struggling with my current boyfriend. Little things for me, and huge things to him. I understand that it is the result of having a mental illness, but you need to be accountable, and look after yourself. His money habits are terrible, his room is a war zone, and he can barely do simple cleaning without me nagging him 100x. He gets so stressed over these things, and it makes him shut down. Something was missing. He was fine. We got along well enough. But IDK. Something just did not feel right. He did not do anything wrong. I just felt like something was not there. People do not give this reasoning enough credit. It just was not there or something was missing are such valid reasons to break up with someone. Convincing yourself to stay because you get along okay and things should be perfect are how hearts get broken. That was mine. He asked so many times why I broke up with him, but I didn't have a concrete answer. I ended up making it worse by giving him smaller concrete answers, but he found counterpoints for each one and said we could work on them. He kept saying I don't understand. I didn't want to work on anything. I just didn't love him anymore maybe, but I didn't want to say it aloud because it sounded so cruel. I just wanted to move on and do something else with my life, and I know that sounds horrible, but what was I supposed to do? Stay and love him, even though he was wonderful? And hurt him even more? I felt at the time that I should have been more grateful for him, but looking back I have zero regrets. I feel like this. But I will come off as a monster to give this reason to end it. I know staying does not make me any less of a monster. I'm just trying to build enough courage to take the step. When we got married we were both different people. The trashing we have received from life, not marriage related, has changed both of us into something that just doesn't feel right. If you can't place the issue, what did you guys talk about to try to identify it? I had friends get so upset when I broke up with my just fine ex. Oh, he's such a good guy, you won't be able to find a better guy, etc. Literally everyone told me I was making a massive mistake and I should just get over feeling like something was missing. We were really good friends, had so much in common, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't what the other person needed. Years later, I'm happily married, and my ex is engaged to a lovely woman. We check in periodically, and I'm really happy he's loving his best life. He's happy I found what I was looking for. My husband refers to him as my nice ex, because we exchange Christmas cards lol. Username checks out. He wouldn't leave me alone for one evening. We were a very fresh couple back then. About 2 months, something like that. We meet every day, texting or calling, when we were apart. So after a while I wanted an evening for myself. Just me, my couch and video games, and he started an argument with lines like, "You are my girlfriend. You have to want to see me." It was hilarious to me. I told him to off and never meet him again. Few years later I heard a story about him tossing his pregnant girlfriend out of the house for similar bull. Guess this guy's the one I'll always remember as WTF was I thinking? I dated a guy for 2 years who was very similar. He'd let me go out and do things without him, and he would always be so cold when I got back. He'd offer to drive my friends after going to the bar, and then we'd hop into his car and he'd sit there in silence, not answering questions or making conversation. It was so intense. Eventually he had made plans to go see the Christmas lights around town. I had just finished a full day of work and classes, and I had a cold. I lied down and told him I couldn't go because I was exhausted. He got mad. That was when I realized he didn't care about me or what I wanted. It was control for him, and he'd treat me poorly if he didn't get his way. I think the reason my current relationship is working as well as it is because we both get evenings to ourselves regularly and plenty of time to be our own people. My previous relationships were not like that. Turns out he was anti-vax and also thought depression is just weakness. Yikes. Glad you got out of there. You know what is funny? I have actively fought against depression and have this weird double think in my mind where I think it is just weakness, but also intellectually know it is some sort of short circuiting in my brain. So I'm weird. Lolo. I guess sometimes it is a good thing PPL post their crazy views on social media. He could not get over the fact that I was not a virgin and he was. He had to marry a virgin. Of course he eventually did marry one, and then called me a month afterward, trying to cheat with me. I refused and never spoke to him again. Did you let his new wife know? What a genuinely gross guy. Bad sex. This is especially bad when everything else clicks. That is something that can be learned, yes. Same. The rest was great for 6 years. Then sexual incompatibility, lack of communication on his part, and doing less and less together. Eventually I felt lonelier with him than without him. Thankfully we split amicably, and are still good friends. We split in May 2019. He would not go down on me. Seriously, we had many talks about it, and at the end of the day, he thought it was gross, but expected me to always go down on him, and I could not look past it, or continue in a relationship with a man that would not go down on me. Edit to say I'm now with a man that loves it, and is incredibly eager. Do not settle with someone unwilling to pleasure you. My ex was like this. I trapped myself for 3 years just assuming it wasn't for me anymore, even though past BF and hookups did it willingly. Now my man craves it. I can't believe I went that long without being able to enjoy it. He had twisted me into thinking I hated it. Like WTF. But yes, still needed BJS. You know what I call a man who does not go down on me? I don't DD. An absolute deal breaker. You go girl D back quote D. I think this is reasonable. My husband would not outright refuse, but really avoided it. We finally talked it out, and he had had an experience where the girl was not clean. And he knew I was fine. It was just a thing that happened to him. Anyway, talking it out sort of broke that subconscious aversion. And turns out that I don't even really like being gone down on, but it is the mere fact that someone would expect and not give that was a Mayoro vertical bar. Hang up. You dated my ex, I see. Yes queen. That all the way on Feo. He expects you to go down on him, but not the other way around. Bullshit. Double life. He was gay. Oof, this happened to my cousin recently. Her fiancé is bi, and she found his second Insta account, where he was with other guys. Not sure about the details, but she confronted him, he confessed, and they broke off their engagement. Edit. For context, it was a double life, because he wasn't out of the closet. We live in a pretty conservative society. At least he and you can both live your best lives now. Same babe. It's rough but it is what it is, you know. His mother died, and did not process his emotions, or take time to mourn and grieve. He ended up building so much frustration and hatred towards me with no explanation. He told me he did not understand why he felt this way towards me, but he could not help that he felt that way. I offered therapy, couples counseling, workbooks for our relationship, but he told me he did not think any of those would work, and didn't even want to put the effort into trying them. We ultimately decided to take a break from each other for a few weeks, but would still talk to each other during that time. Those few weeks turned into 2 months with absolutely zero contact from him. Pretty much ghosted me. We had been together almost 3 years. I imagined my future with this man. I really thought he was going to be the one I married and settled down with. Finally, on what would have been our 3-year anniversary, I called him and just asked him if I could pick up my stuff from his house. He was out of town, so I met his sister there to pick up my things, and that was the end of my relationship. So odd. I'm so sorry. That one was a gut punch to read. I am sorry. Without the death of the mother, my friend went through something very similar with her ex-husband. They both did a bunch of long distance, were together for more than a decade, married for 4 years. Friend's ex would basically just stop talking to her if they fought. So, eventually it got to a head when they had that last fight, and it was 4 or 6 months without a call/text/email/visit. She moved to a different state for a job, by herself. By the time it was 5 years, she made the decision to get a divorce. I can't imagine how isolating it must be to have her to get there all by herself, no input or reaction from the man she was married to. I'd hope my husband and I at least have the courtesy to have some giant fights, yell, scream, cry, and do and feel emotions if we have to get a divorce. Can you DM me? Realize that he didn't have the courage to have an interracial relationship, even if you said he did. To add, it was one comment that gave him away. Story is, I added my profile on his Netflix account, in which his sister also shared, and I jokingly asked if I was ruining my first impression with the Agretsuko Rage profile icon, to which he replied, babe, you know I can't tell my sister about you. I'm from a Hindu family. I'm not trying to offend anyone from this religion. I had wholly accepted where he was from. It's just what happened, and it made me think, was that just occurring to him months into the relationship? I am sorry, Fatur-san. Right there. You deserve somebody who will wear you on their arm with pride, baby. My first boyfriend was same, except for 2 years seemed to be trying to convince both of us that it was going to work out, and his family would accept Merlot vertical bar, but it took him 5 years to even let them know I existed, and that we were serious. Surprise, Supri vertical bar, they did not approve. It is not the belief system or culture I am knocking, it is his lack of insight and absolute naivety that it was going to be a no-go. Different cultural difference, but this ended an important one for me too. First time I noticed his discomfort, he dropped my hand when a strange old lady of his same race wanted to start a convo in a grocery store. Pretended I wasn't it there, so I walked away. Then thanked me after for not making it a thing. It became a thing though over time, only in certain situations, and I eventually ended it. End of day, I am not who he pictures himself with, though we loved each other. From what religion are you that he couldn't get to tell you about to his Hindu family? I'm a Hindu too, and the most Hindus I know are well accepting. My older sister had this thing with a Muslim boy in high school, and they really liked each other, but if his family found out about them, and that they had sex, his life would be ruined, so they eventually drifted apart amicably, but it still was a huge bummer for them both. This happened to me as well. And to clarify, I'm a Hindu as well, just not from the same caste as him. He ended up marrying a girl his parents approved. This was about 5 years back. I hope things have improved now. He couldn't commit, because a pastor at a church sat us down and told us our connection was evil and not love. So he instead strung me along for ages without committing. That pastor sounds like a nut, but what did he think was evil about it? Had sex, so must have had the devil pulling the strings? Cold, no trust or respect you? Cultural differences / potential mill conflict. He was from the deep south, and was the golden child of a single mother. We met while he was stationed up north, and I didn't mean his mother until we were over a year into the relationship. I'd always heard stories about southern mama's boys, but from what I observed until that point it didn't seem like that. When I met her, it was very clear I would always be number two, and that she saw me as competition in a very Freudian way, so to speak. I quickly realized we needed to break up, but planned to do it once he returned from the extended vacation. I had only gone down for a few days. It was also clear that when they were together he was entirely whipped by her. Which is fine for people who are into that, not something I was fine with in a future partner. Before he came back, though, he called and dumped me. It was very clear that once I had left, mama had laid down the law that the mouthy, short-haired Yankee who was incredibly alienated by her being completely cold and disdainful, and the very open segregation still present in their area, was not an acceptable vessel for her future grandchildren. It was for the best. We really weren't suited to each other, but were both at life stages and an area with poor enough dating prospects that we stuck it out, based on sexual compatibility and mutual interests. It just sucks being dumped by someone's jealous mom. To be completely honest, being a mama's boy is the biggest turn off for me. I've known too many guys that are practically mini husbands to their own moms, and it grosses me out so much. Luckily, I don't have to deal with that, but it'd be a complete deal breaker if I did. I'm glad that you knew your worth and put yourself first. From what I've seen, it never changes, and you'd always be second to her. Ugh. I've also been dumped by a partner's parents. It definitely stings different. Okay, wow, I thought this was only in movies. I asked for the bare minimum time, attention, and effort, but that was asking for too much. He never got off the dating apps when we were together, so maybe having one foot out the door the whole time was also a contributing factor. I am sorry, you deserve someone who wants to give you that and more. He claimed to love me a lot, but refused to learn how to love me. I think he put into words how my current relationship is going, giving him one last chance though. I am sorry. I am a paramedic. She is a nurse. Our work schedules were literally opposites, and we saw each other maybe once a month, and neither of us were willing to change jobs. Kinda stupid, but DDEURE. Not stupid at all, Mayo. Not stupid at all. I worked as a CNA, 6 AM to 2 PM 5 days a week, while he taught only in the evenings. It was great, because we didn't need childcare. Sucked because we never got to see each other. Eventually I switched to a new position where I only worked weekends and at night, and suddenly we had nearly every morning together. Bless. He was physically abusive. He hit me in front of his friends. So humiliating. Should be humiliating for him, not you. Glad you're out of that relationship. What a pose. Did his friends help you when they witnessed it? My friends are great, they would never do this. But, if any of my friends ever did this, I would slap the out of him in front of everyone. I woke up one day in love with him, woke up the next, not. It was weird, seemingly perfect Torgetero vertical bar. I looked at him, and it was like being in bed with my brother. Ended it the next day. Did it feel like it took a lot of courage to break up, or was it easy? This happened to me too. It was like a switch had turned off. Him touching me felt disgusting sometimes, just had to end it at that point. He did not want to move away from his small hometown, and I just cold not take living there. I feel this one. A couple years into our relationship, we hadn't talked about marriage or anything. We went to his parents' place and they showed us the house they were building for him and his future wife right next door. You get to live here forever. I felt my whole future turn into the size of a marble. They were wonderful people, but had been living on that street for 9 generations. It was named after them. and doing it any differently was obviously not a concept. I left and have been living abroad for 5 years. Best decision I ever made. Hats off to you. I wonder about this. I'm living across the country for school, and have met someone here. The town's alright, but I've done a lot of living, and already found a place I want to call home, and want to return to after uni. He's the second generation to be born, and grow up in this town, and he's not interested in leaving it, really. It's a really great relationship, but in a few years, when uni is done, I'm out to here. Hoping he wants to move with me then, if we are still dating, but not staying if he doesn't. There was loyalty, but no affection / sex sucked. Gambling and porn addiction, debt. During a minor disagreement, that I can't even remember the reason for, he just completely lost his temper, and started screaming at me about anything he could think of. It literally became a stream of consciousness at high volume, and when I tried to leave the situation he grabbed me by the wrist, got up in my face, and said, "I'll remember this next time you ask me for anything, you fluffing birch," not actual words, which again, made zero sense in the context, and was super scary. This was 4 months in, and until this point it had been super fun and easygoing, hence my disappointment. Made me realize I didn't know him at all, or what he was capable of. Well done for leaving. We were intellectually incompatible. He was a total bore with zero personality to speak of, and kept molding his interests around me, and was passive enough that I did not wanna continue it. Been there. A bunch of times, actually. In my early 20 years I would date men like that for a few months, and then get bored of them. I eventually figured out I was dating men that were not as smart as I needed them to be, because it was easy. They needed a boss, I needed a partner. He said he did not want kids, after years before saying he wanted them. I have a medical thing, making pregnancy difficult, but also desire to become a mom, so yeah, and even if he wanted them, he did not want to have them with me. He could not make time for me, not even one evening a week. After living together for almost 6 years, I broke up with him. A year later he was married with a child due. My breakups happened in the most thoughtless manner from my end. I was told by all my exes that I pushed for a breakup. I think I agree with them to a certain extent. I can't pinpoint why I broke up, could be cause we were incompatible, or I felt boxed in, but I know even from the very beginning, within the first few days, I started to wonder why I got into this. I started to look for an end date and enjoy the relationship, and somewhere I started to panic hard. Being with a guy makes me anxious. I have never been with someone who makes me feel calm or relaxed. I actually feel good on my own. I have a hard time feeling calm or relaxed around men too. It even makes it difficult to have male friends. I was 32 when I met my current boyfriend. The first thing I noticed was how completely at ease I felt in his presence. He still has that effect on me all these years later. It's like his pheromones secrete Xanax or something. Hopefully you can find your Xanax secretor someday too. This might be a stretch, but if you have never felt comfortable with a man, have you considered women? Women are pretty great. Sounds like you have an avoidant attachment style. Or maybe you just like being alone. That sounds familiar. I mentioned it further up the thread, but I was anxious to the point where I shut down and would take a sudden stage left exit when it looked like it was time for the sexual part of things to start. I looked into it a lot before I stumbled across a few articles. https://Center for Anxiety Disorders.com/sex avoidance anxiety disorders/ when I was feeling I had to break up with my current boyfriend, but didn't want to. It was weird. I also looked for the end date in past relationships, including with women. I went to therapy to find where all of this was coming from. Fear of losing control by letting a guy close crops up a lot. It's a lot easier now. Thankfully boyfriend is kind, patient, and chill about things. Maybe you'll find someone who makes you comfortable and feel secure. And then you'll know where you want to be, and you'll be happier. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being happy and secure alone. It says a lot about your character. He said he got tired dealing with my BC my mom died. Lol. LMAO guys can be such dib. Sometimes. Wanted to run the clock down by being exclusive, but not serious. Yeah no. Haha what does that even mean? He stole $2,000 worth of my things, and blamed it on my brother. Found a porn receipt in his wallet 6 months later. He was my best friend and we were together for over 2 years. $2,000? Things would have gotten violent upon my finding that receipt to a girl. That's really horrible. I hope you are doing better. I would have been really unhappy. Do you think /no if it's the usual drugs / gambling thing? The drug problem they acquired. His OCD and absolute fear of COVID. Professionally diagnosed, we both see a therapist. We're still kinda seeing each other. I broke it off, and did not expect to spend more time together, but we are in Australia. It was safe for months, before this new Delta strain, and I desperately wanted to go on a date. His reaction to the virus, and dealing with the situation has been no vertical bar. Extreme. We did not see each other for 11 weeks last year, because he has his own COVID guidelines. I cannot cope with his anxieties anymore, it hurts too much. We both were burnt out though. I got to a stage of resentment. I am not sure what I want to happen next. OCD is intense. I also suffer from it, and it is very misunderstood in general. Regardless, you are absolutely within your rights to decide if you want that in your life. If you need someone to talk to that has experience with this particular beast, please feel free to message me. I felt like things were moving too quickly, and no matter the number of times I flagged it with him, nothing really changed. Then one day he had a meltdown. When I asked him, he treated all girls the same way he treated me. He said yes, he treats all girls that way, and that he's just trying to be nice. It didn't sit right with me, because it felt like I was being love bombed. I have been love bombed as well, but the first time I really liked him, and fell for it, and was really hurt when he stopped the love bombing. The second time a guy tried that with me, I really insisted on my boundaries and he would not respect them. I had plans to sleep over at a friend's after her birthday, probably just watch movies hungover, and said I was not free when he asked to hang out. He asked me 3 more times to meet up, and I had already spoken to him about him asking me too many times to do the same thing when I say I am not available, because it made me feel bad. So I broke it off with him, and eventually had to block his number. I still feel so bothered by this guy, and he added me on Snapchat recently. Like bro, learn to take no for an answer. We grew apart after 4 years. A year of him being off at college taught me how much I grew to enjoy my time without him. Him constantly choosing alcohol and getting wasted over actually spending time together. He thought him drinking while hanging around my apartment, then falling asleep with me was spending time together. My partner had a serious sedative addiction. Same thing. Wondered why I would complain about never getting to spend time with him. Because you're past the out with a needle in your arm 24/7, that's why. He was so self-aware, yet so unwilling to work on his issues. I had never met a guy who was so aware of exactly what was wrong with himself, yet had every excuse to justify his past actions. I was lonely, so I slept with a coworker who was attached. I was hurt from a previous relationship, so I was unwilling to commit to someone for 14 months. I was unsure I could make things work, because he seemed so broken, and yet I don't think it was in my control to fix him, so I ended things. It has been months, but it still hurts like hell. I don't think I have ever liked anyone as much as I liked him. Also wonder every day if I made the right decision tbh. Currently in a similar relationship right now. No past actions that threaten our relationship, but his willingness to just sit in his anger/upsetness is starting to really be hard for me to go on with. I suffered from so many mental health issues as a result of some childhood trauma, depression, self-hatred, intrusive thoughts, you name it. So it has taken so much work and active mindfulness to stay in control of my mindset and not let myself fall back, and the way he acts and thinks almost makes it harder for me to stay positive. I know that may be selfish of me, since I have been in his position before, more so with sadness not anger, but he is 2 years younger than me and still in college, so I just feel like we're in two different places right now. He's so open to the converse of how to actively practice changing your mindset, but does not actually practice them, but it is like you can bring a horse to water, but cannot make it drink. And his anger is starting to get a little too intense. He has never and will never, I firmly believe, hurt me, but he'll react aggressively when he thinks someone innocent has been wronged. Once at a party a dude grabbed my and he was yelling and getting very aggressive and confrontational with him. Once at a nightclub I ran into an old friend who had some mean words that made me cry. So he went off on him yelling, nothing physical to harm others more. So things like punching a wall / knocking over his own furniture. If Somiana is rude to a service worker he will talk about wanting to slit their wrists and watch their family burn a vertical bar. It is just very escalated responses to tie, but not that horrible events. Also heavily believed in capital punishment, which I do not, but that is a whole other thing lol. It is flattering that he gets so angry when someone does something wrong to me, but the anger scares me. Someone will cut us off in the drive-through line and he'll start talking about how he hopes their mom gets cancer, or how he wants to kill their family. It is in the heat of the moment outbursts that he never acts on obviously, but it is hard being with someone who thinks like that, when I spent so much of my time trying to grow and change my mindset, and be my best self. I have been in therapy for over a year now, and have made so much progress, and he agrees it would probably help him too. He just says I am happy with the way I'm right now. Has definitely at least a little depressed. I just cannot get him to actually take the steps he knows could help him too. He is so aware he has anger issues / a very pessimistic / judgy attitude of others' actions, and is very quick to be and stay negative, but this is just me. I know it is not good, and probably harmful in the long run, but that is who I'm mentality. It makes me think he'll want to change someday, even if it is not today. But again I am 2 years older starting grad school 5 hours away, so it is hard to decide if it is worth all the effort or LDR takes, just to spend our time together talking him down from some rage-filled event, usually someone cutting us off. It does not help that when we are together it just feels like two best friends, not that sexual spark it usually would seeing your S/O after some time apart. We care so deeply for each other, and I love his hugs, but I never wanna jump his bones. Sorry this turned into a ramble. I just have never decided if I need to break up with him, because besides that he is literally my best friend, and understands me more than anyone, and has helped me grow through such a transitional phase of my life. And talking to him 2 years into the relationship still feels like we could talk for hours about random things like the meaning of life / all these other abstract topics. Which I love, and find it hard to find people I feel that with. So I have been reading these Reddit posts almost looking for answers. Thanks for reading. If you made it this far probably. I was reading this expecting to hear the excuse he uses to hurt you. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.